The Arizona Wildcats are hitting on all cylinders, and that was never more evident than what we saw against Oregon. What does all this mean going forward?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. This show is brought to you by Nissan. All right, Arizona takes care of business in a big way against the Oregon Ducks. And let's be honest here. This was a butt kicking. Throughout the season, I think the thing that's been a little bit maddening for Arizona fans is that it appears that Arizona should be able to, listen, you got the talent. Everybody knows how good this squad can be, but I think some of the frustration is that Arizona just not kind of lets teams back in the game, lets their foot off the gas, plays down to the competition. Well, you're kind of getting the sense now that Arizona is starting to click on all cylinders, and you saw that against Oregon. And quite frankly, that was a very, very impressive game. And not only was that an impressive win for the Wildcats, it was also a win where you're like, man, this squad is really going. And not only is this squad really going, everybody is playing their parts. And honestly, that starts with Kylan Boswell. Listen, I've been hard on Kylan Boswell, and I would love, pardon the pun, to continue to talk about Kylan Boswell and, basically start the my bad Kylan Boswell movement. Now, for those asking, I am not there yet. I will not start the movement until, again, we got to string together some games. But this dude is playing lights out this last week. And honestly, I think Oregon game, you could make the case maybe outside of Duke, because you got to factor in who you're playing against, the roster, et cetera, et cetera. I think you can make the case that this might have been his best game of his career. I mean, and he was on fire when he is hunting shots, when he is going after players left and right and trying to really kind of accentuate himself, kind of wiggle in there. He's a next level type guy. He's an NBA type player, and not only is he an NBA type player, he's a player who is the kind of guy who can be a game changer. Again, we've been saying all season, we keep saying it. Don't need an All-American, but need an All-Conference type guy. And what you saw out there was an All-Conference type performance out of Kylan Boswell. And again, he's a good shooter. You can tell by watching him that when he's hunting his shots, he looks good. And when he gets into the paint, when he can just do a lot of different things, and it's just kind of refreshing to watch. Honestly, he is listen, he's obviously a very good kid. He's somebody that everybody's rooting for. And this isn't a spot where it was like a Daniel Dillon or something where it's like, well, should I really get on him? Because Daniel Dillon really can't do much. Boswell is doing that, and it's been very, very exciting to watch. And he is a huge part of what Arizona needs going forward, because if he's playing well, then everybody else kind of falls into play. We'll get into all of that. But man, again, when the shot's falling, when he's getting into the paint. And the other thing too is he's got an interesting basketball body for sure, and that he's obviously a little bit thicker than you generally see from your average point guard. But it also is just it's also just a little bit of the aspect that you need to continue to just play well. And if he continues to play well, then Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape. I am, like I said, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do. And again, I think that he's kind of at the stage now. We're kind of at the stage with him where just keep pushing it, man. Just keep pushing it, because you've got all the talent in the world, and there's a reason that Tommy Lloyd has, had you like this. And let's talk about it. Jaden Bradley with him. Talk about, that's a point guard duo that we've kind of taken to calling Bradwell. Get it? I like it. Bradwell. It's funny. Bradwell is the or Bradwell. He kind of complements Kylan Boswell perfectly in that he knows that you watch both these guys and they're totally different players. Boswell, when he gets going offensively, can shoot. He can take over games offensively, as we've seen. Whereas Jaden Bradley is far more subtle in his takeover methods. Get it? And that he can, he's not necessarily the best offensive player in the world from a shooting perspective. I do believe that offensively he is very underrated. And not only do I believe that offensively he's very underrated, I believe that he is the, from finishing in transition to getting to the basket. He is the guy who just can do a lot of everything. And I'm thrilled, no matter what happens next year, I'm thrilled that Jaden Bradley is going to be on the team. And not only am I thrilled that Jaden Bradley is going to be on the team, I'm thrilled at what he can do from a defensive perspective, because again, he's got some next level type, abilities to him. And when he's playing well, this team's playing well, everybody's playing well, everybody's locked in, and he is just, that is an immense strength because they play off of each other well. Kylan will never have Jaden's hand, the quick twitch, things like that. But, Jaden probably will never be able to shoot like Kylan can when Kylan gets going. So again, it's kind of an easy trade-off, and they both complement each other well. Arizona now is kind of in that 7.5-man rotation where you want to be come March. This is exactly where you want to be if you're the University of Arizona and you're in a good spot. Like I said, so much is going to hinge on the point guard play of these two guys, and they play really well off of each other. And not only do they play really well off of each other, they also, you can just tell that they both kind of vibe. And that's a big thing when it comes to basketball. I mean, we've seen players out here that don't have great body language, that don't really look like they want to be out there, whatever the case may be. We've seen it time and time again in basketball, because basketball is one of those sports where you can't put your helmet on. And, and people don't really know. Basketball is very much of an in-person endeavor where the average fan can see what's going on. Not only can the average fan see what's going on, but it's also easy for players to express their emotions in a way that, sometimes isn't probably ideal, but it just kind of is what it is. But either way, this is what Arizona needed this week. Kylan Boswell actually absolutely killing it against ASU and then against Oregon. And Arizona just needs that to continue, because if you continue with that against the LA schools, then guess what? You're going to beat the LA schools. He is just such a trump card over everybody else. And not only is he a trump card over everybody else, he is also the both of those guys, like I said, just feed perfectly off of each other, and they allow other players to really kind of fit into the role of what they do best. And we're going to get into that in a second. But first, Nissan. All right, go find your next big adventure. Shop now at nissanusa.com. All right, I have a Nissan. I just got a Nissan. My previous car was stolen because it was a Target. Guess what? Nissan is fantastic. The car gets amazing gas mileage. Very, very happy with my Nissan, friends. And not only am I very happy with my Nissan, I'm going to drive this thing into the ground. Looking at it, you can probably get 250,000 miles out of it. The cars look cool. Like I said, I had somebody telling me, you're really going to get a Nissan Altima? Yes, I am. And then when he looked at the Nissan Altima, he's like, that's not the way that I remember them looking. It's a great car. Like I said, I very much enjoy it. I'm not making any of this up either. It's all true. Check it out, Nissan. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about these point guards and what this means, putting everybody into place, getting everybody kind of set up in the right platform. And again, that goes back to Caleb Love then. A lot of people were saying, maybe move Caleb Love to the point. That is not what you want. Caleb Love was blessed with a real ability to score the basketball. It was something that he's next level at. And not only is he next level at, he's also somebody who just embraces that moment. I don't want to put him in a facilitator type role. Now, I will say this, that he's a much, much better facilitator than I think people give him credit for. Games where he's got 5 assists, 4 assists. He can get into the lane. He can distribute. He can do a lot of different things. He's a good basketball player. Again, He's a good basketball player. Caleb Love knows how to play basketball. And a big part of that, obviously, is what he can do when he gets into the paint. And honestly, I wish he would get into the paint more. He can shoot the ball. We've seen it. He's an opportunistic shooter. We've all seen what Caleb Love can do. But I would like him to get into the paint a little bit more, because when he gets into the paint and he really stresses the defense, then it's kind of a different animal entirely for him. And I'd like to see him do that, because there's not anybody in college basketball that can stay clear, that can steer clear of him. And not only is there nobody in college basketball that can really, stay in front of him, he's also the dude that, like we talked about a billion times, he embraces that moment. Not only does he embrace that moment, he is the player that, win, lose, or draw in the last seconds, he's going to have the ball. Now, there's kind of a disingenuous stat going around, because there are some Caleb Love deniers, which I don't quite get, but whatever the case may be, you got to do what you got to do. Where they're like, Arizona's 0-4 in one possession games. How many of those games did not turn into one possession games because of a huge shot that he made? Let's use the Utah game, for example. He didn't even play well in that game, and he had the runner, he had the long three, and Arizona ended up blowing him out in triple overtime, whatever the case may be. So that doesn't count as a one possession game, but he was the one that tied it with, next to no time remaining. And going forward, Arizona's going to need that. And he's proven a lot of people wrong. Jason Shear looking right at you. Jeff Goodman looking right at you. All of those dudes. He is, like I said, he's just been kind of a next level player for the University of Arizona. And not only has he been a next level player for him, he's somebody that I think we're also kind of at the stage where, that going forward, he is Arizona's going to go as far as he takes him, and it's going to be a lot easier for him if he's got that point guard playing up to the potential like a Kylan Boswell, not only playing up to the potential like a Kylan Boswell, but Jaden Bradley helping him out, because also with Boswell and Bradley, both those guys are fairly good facilitators, which I think is kind of an underrated quality about both of them. And both of those guys, I think, obviously feed well off of Caleb Love. And there's certainly a synergy involved. But again, Love is going to be big. I believe that Love is going to be a first or a second team All-American this year. And I thought it was really cool too what Tommy Lloyd said, where he goes, a lot of people were dissing on Caleb, saying he's not a great teammate. He said none of that's true. He said he's done exactly what we wanted here. He's done everything that we've wanted, and not only has he done everything we've wanted, he's also been the guy that is he's been the dude who has been the guy that when we need to make a play, he's been there, and he does it with a smile on his face. He does it with a passion, and that's something also that's kind of underrated. Watch Caleb Love and his passion for basketball. It's cool. It's childlike. And that's something that's also kind of fun, I think, about what Caleb Love has been able to do for Arizona. We always talk about the Caleb Love experience here at the U of A, and it's a fun experience. It's something that's fun to watch. And again, just super, super happy for the kid and what he's been able to do, because Arizona basketball is much, much better with a kind of an alpha like him. And then KJ Lewis, again, we're going to keep talking about this. KJ's not playing his best ball, but Arizona needs him to get back into that realm, because, against Oregon, didn't play great. Against ASU, played pretty well, but Arizona needs him to be getting back into that realm, because look at Jermaine Couisnard. Jermaine Couisnard against Arizona in that second half did essentially anything he wanted. It also goes to show you, too, the talent that Arizona has, that Jermaine Couisnard could go for, 33 points in the second half. But KJ and Pella have to be those wings, have to be those guards that really kind of put the other players, that really make life difficult for them, because, again, they're not necessarily being counted on to score the way Caleb Love will. And that's something that obviously is a big aspect for the U of A. Is so again, KJ got to get back in the realm. And then something we saw in the Oregon game that I really liked, and Rhino made this point too, and I'm very bullish on it, is I love when Pella Larson and Umar Ballo, leader of men, get into that pick and roll action. Pella is weird because Pella is not weird, but Pella's never going to come up and, shake you to, and, get a pull-up jumper or, hit the step back three. That's just not what Pella Larson's going to do. But what Pella Larson can do is he can get a little bit of a hesitation bounce. He can do a little bit of a straight line bounce. And that is ideal. That is absolutely ideal when you've got somebody, like Umar Ballo, leader of men, dive into the hoop. And Pella also, he's a good facilitator when he's got the ball in the lane. And not only when he's got the ball in the lane, when he can throw it up to Umar Ballo, leader of men, they've got a nice little chemistry going. And I'd like to see that one continue because I think that there's a lot to be intrigued by. And you've really started to see that kind of pick up here in the last couple weeks. And you saw that a lot against Oregon. I'm going to be curious to see if that's part of Tommy Lloyd's, strategy going forward. Is that something that we're going to do? Is that something where he's going to, really kind of start pushing that envelope a little bit? Because again, when Arizona is playing well, when Pella Larson is getting downhill, Arizona is just a much, much better team. And that's something that I think Wildcat fans need to embrace, honestly. And it's something too with Pella. Pella, just be more aggressive. If Pella's got an open 3-point shot, take it. If he's got his guy and he thinks that he can get by him with a straight line drive or a little bit of a hesitation, do it. You're more than capable of doing that. We've seen it. We know the kind of player that Pella Larson is. And I think as Arizona fans, we just want to see that continue because, again, he's got all the talent. He's got the talent to be able to make it work. Looking for a huge march out of Pella Larson. Now, the big man depth coming up, that's something that keep an eye on, especially with Keyshawn Johnson. But first, FanDuel. This is the best time of the year, my friends. Well, maybe it's not if you're obviously a football fan. I'm a big football fan as well, obviously, but FanDuel is where it's at. Check it out. New customers, you can get, you put down $5, you can get 200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/locked-on. Again, all kinds of good stuff if you got to win that $5 bet. But basketball's here. March Madness is here. The NBA is here. And the playoffs are coming in as well. Very, very excited about all of this. And FanDuel is great because you can put down your money and your money is good with FanDuel. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we got a lot more to get to this show. Not only do we have a lot more to get to this show, we're going to talk about the big man depth with Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn, listen, man, with Keyshawn, I just need that energy. I need that hustle and everything will fall into place. There's other players where you're like, all right, what kind of, mental mind frame, your confidence with Keyshawn, if he is playing with extreme energy, Arizona is going to be a monster. Arizona is going to be a bear of a team to beat because he's the only big man on the team that can get to the hoop. They can block shots, can play strong. And there's going to be a lot of times with Keyshawn where he is going to have to be, he's going to have to be kind of that player where you're looking and you're like, all right, you're going to have to play against somebody that's a lot bigger than you, or we're going to need blocks out of you. And that's what I need because, again, we've seen it before. He's playing great ball right now. But I think back to the Washington game where he started off the game just on fire, blocking shots, running the court. That's what you need because, again, when Arizona's getting that out of Keyshawn Johnson, then Arizona is a monster of a team to be able to beat. And not only are they a monster of a team to be able to beat, they're a team that I just don't know that anybody out there is going to, you just don't have any weaknesses at that point because Arizona can go big with Umar Ballo, leader of men, and Keyshawn Johnson. But there's also going to be times where, it's a close game and you're going to have to kind of do defense for offense substitutions, whatever the case may be, because Umar's not great at the free throw line. Although we will say Umar is getting much better at the free throws. And that is something that is very, very intriguing about Umar, is what he's been able to do from the free throw line. It doesn't look like that Shaq weird shot that he's, they've been pushing out there. But it also, I think, I also think that it's something where with Keyshawn Johnson, he's been there. He's done that. He had 13 points, 4 rebounds in the national title game last year. He's played some of his best games against big men like a Purdue, like a like I said, against Oregon, he was in there. He's done a Michigan State. He's had big games. We've seen it. Just continue to play with that energy, and if he continues to play with that energy, then I think you're going to see a very, very nice, finish to his season. Because again, there is a lot to like about Keyshawn Johnson and what he can do. And then Umar Ballo. Listen, Umar Ballo, I think, has probably been beaten up a lot more than he should. I don't know that there's a lot of players in U of A history that actually, I don't know that there's any that have essentially just the double consistency machine that he is. Now, that's not saying that he's better than, somebody like DeAndre Ayton, although my mother will continue to make that case until the end of time. And, honestly, I'm not sure that she's totally wrong on some of her aspects of it. Ayton's better, obviously. But Umar, the way that he can finish around the hoop now, he looks like he's in better shape. And he's just a space eater. He's somebody that gets rebounds. And not only does he get rebounds, he just kind of takes up space. And again, just a good basketball player. Somebody that it's going to be a bummer if he moves on. I still hold out, some faint hope that Umar Ballo, leader of men, and maybe or Pelle Larsson, one of the two, come back. I would very much like that. I think that would be fantastic to see if that was the case. But you obviously get if they feel the need to move on, because honestly, it makes a lot. It definitely makes sense for both parties. But I mean, well, not both parties, but you would definitely love to have him back. But just an overall progression player where I think, when he got here, I'll be honest, I thought he was going to be kind of a Gene Edgerson type where, he's going to be hustle. He's going to wear the bike knee pads and, kind of fall on the ground, do all that. He's a lot more than that. He is a difference maker. He's not just a role player. He's a difference maker. And that's something where you have to be excited about it. And not only do you have to be excited about it, what he can do come March. And a big part of it, too, is his free throws. You saw that again against Oregon, where I think he's made 39 of his last 65, something like that. Obviously not great, but you're starting to push towards that 60%. And if you're making 60% of your free throws as opposed to 40% of your free throws, it is a lot different. And, that's something with Umar that you got to be excited about. And then Krivas, listen, Krivas is the one guy. It's where I'm kind of going with a 7.5-man rotation, where I think with Krivas, you kind of know that there's going to be a game where you're going to need him. There's certainly going to be a game where you're going to need him. But not only is there going to be a game where you're going to need him, he's going to have to really just, step up. But there's also going to be games where he's probably not just going to play, because keep in mind, the game is obviously still a little bit too fast for him. We're not breaking any news here. But next year, I think he's going to be next year, I think he's going to be a monster. Next year, I think that he's going to be a player that is going to be a 13-7 player. I think he's just got to get into better shape. He's got to get used to the physicality of the American game. And once he gets that, I think we're going to see a really, really good player. And not only do I think we're going to see a really good player, I think we're also going to see a player who is, his best basketball is obviously ahead of him. But right now, so far, so good, obviously. Okay, now, we're obviously going to talk a bunch of Arizona basketball tomorrow, but Arizona had a couple guys at the Combine that absolutely destroyed it. Not sure if you noticed or not, but Tanner McLaughlin ran one of the fastest 40 times for a tight end, plus he's got the production to match. Also, Jacob Cowing has done much of the same at that wide receiver position. Where can these guys be? Because I think you're going to see both of these players start to creep up on some draft boards. Maybe they start sliding into that top 100, because both of them have the feel of players that could be, NFL starters for multiple years. And that's generally where those guys go. So again, we're going to talk about all of that and more. But as always, have a great rest of your day. Arizona, no better time to be an Arizona Wildcat fans. Bear down, back the A. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.